All right, everyone. So, welcome to the Workplace ESOL Capacity Building Training. This is the workshop series for instructors and curriculum designers. This is Fundamentals of Contextualized Curriculum, Part 1, and Part 2 is going to be next week. This series is funded by the Commonwealth Corporation and it's designed and delivered by English for New Bostonians. One second, I have to change this. All right, so English for New Bostonians, our mission is to invest in the future of our region by creating opportunities for immigrants to pursue their educational, economic, and civic aspirations. And the Commonwealth Corporation. This is a quasi-public industry organization that fosters workforce equity through a number of grants that are available for economic investment and opportunities. I want to mention the upcoming workshops in our series for instructors and curriculum designers. Balancing student and company needs. This is going to take place May 6 and 13. We'll be talking about strategies to communicate with supervisors, addressing challenges and barriers to students, and differentiate our workplace content for different levels of literacy. And then after that, integrating technology and digital literacy, which will focus on remote instruction, integrating digital literacy, and online resources that we'll be sharing with each other, as well as practicing integrating digital literacy into our lessons. Part 2 of this workshop, Contextualizing Curriculum, is next Friday at the same time. And in Part 2, we're going to focus on design and instruction of workplace contextualized lessons. We're going to be sharing a lot with each other, very roundtable, talking about different strategies and examples we use, as well as practicing. So if you have any suggestions or expectations for next Friday, please submit them in the short survey that you're going to receive after today's workshop. And also, we're going to post the videos, the recordings. Everything's going to be on our workshop series website. And I'll make sure that everyone gets a link to this website when I send out the survey. But under instructors and curriculum designers, by Monday, we're going to have the information up for you. All right, here's the agenda for today. We'll start with introductions. We'll review our objectives. Then we'll talk about the adult learner in workplace ESOL. And then we'll focus on workplace ESOL contextualized curriculum, how we compare it with our ABA curriculum, and resources for workplace curriculum. Then we'll spend time designing a workplace ESOL unit. The objectives are to discuss strategies for contextualizing adult ESOL curriculum to the workplace. Another objective is to explore resources, including sharing resources with each other. Because I have experience, but I'm not an expert. We all bring different tools and strategies to our toolbox. We're going to engage with fellow instructors to share ideas and experience and practice together. So at this time, please let me know, what else do you expect to learn about contextualizing curriculum during this workshop? All right, sounds like this is going to cover everything you expected to learn. Okay, great. I did look at the surveys when I created this curriculum. I looked at everyone's registration surveys, and I was like, okay, we need to include this and include this. So I hope I meet your expectations with this workshop. So let's start with introductions. I'm going to change the screen to speaker view. Actually, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And all right, so let's go ahead and introduce ourselves to each other. I'm Sarah Barber, and I'm the Workplace ESOL Coordinator at English for New Bostonians. Go ahead.
I'm Chris Gwaltney. I am the program support specialist for the Community Education Project Holyoke. Fairly new to the position and eager to attend this and learn as much as I can.
I'm Sue Crosby. I am a teacher for Framingham Adult ESL Plus. I also teach in 2 workplace teaching positions, and I teach privately and in a Spanish-speaking church in Worcester. And I'm looking forward to gleaning anything. I don't have particular expectations, which is why I didn't say anything, but I'm looking forward to anything that I can pick up and add to do a better job of teaching.
My name is Beverly Swart. I teach at Community Action. I did do 1 year of workplace, but I never got to talk with the administration at the business. And so I think I didn't do as good a job teaching as I would have if I had known what their expectations were. So now my boss is attending these classes too, so I'll have great support.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I taught was similar. I hadn't really worked with the supervisors. And definitely, as I continued teaching, I felt like I was meeting the needs of the students and the companies more. So you make a great point there.
Go ahead, Mike, if you want to introduce yourself.
What are we talking about? I just got back.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Just please introduce yourself, your organization,
Oh, yeah.
and your
Okay.
position.
Mike Oliver, Director, St. Mark Community Education Program.
Thank you, Mike. And my name is Franklin Peralta. I am not an ESL teacher, but my job is to convince companies to bring this training to their employees. So I spend a lot of time on the phone, on Zoom, talking to them at different stages. And, you know, they look at us as the experts, and normally they want to know more about how these classes are going to impact their bottom line and these kind of things. So I can talk about that, but there's always, you always from time to time find a HR person that used to be a teacher and start asking all those questions about curriculum and about the vocabulary and the grammar. I'm like, well, I'll put you in contact with Sarah. Sarah will tell you all these pieces about the. So I'm here to try to pick up a couple tips on how to talk to those companies about not just the macro, but also the how to these classes operate.
Chris, did you introduce yourself? I apologize if
I
I
did.
missed it.
I
Okay, great. So let's go back to the presentation. All right, I really like this quote from Gray and Hare, who wrote Workplace Education, the Basics. And I'll put this book up at the end. I think it's a really great book for directors as well as instructors. It doesn't focus on ESOL, but it does talk about the entire program design and considerations for workplace education. So I'll read it to you because I think it's so great. The goal of training is to teach people to follow prescribed procedures and to perform in a standardized manner. The goal of education is to create independent problem solvers who have sufficient depth of understanding to figure out what to do when the procedures break down. We are not trainers, we're educators. And when your director is working with the company and setting up the program, it's important that they make that distinction, that we're not training people how to do their job. We are educating them to know the vocabulary and to understand so that they can address situations at work and they can communicate their needs and communicate situations. It's important to consider the unique qualities of adult learners. This is more information from Gray and Hare. The adult learner will need more time, but they will be more accurate in the long run. New materials should be presented in small segments and reviewed, and adults prefer self-directed learning. The reason I mention this is I still see a lot of times that instructors are so excited about the material and they feel like they don't have enough time that they try to present too much at one time. But when you're working with an emergent group, very low-level literacy, you have to remember that just the simple be present lesson is 10 new vocabulary words. And according to my SABI's adult learning class, my CELTA certification, 10 new words is the maximum you want introduced in any lesson. And I know that that's impossible to stick with that because they're going to learn more words that are coming up in the examples. But we do have to remember that adult learners can only take in small amounts of information at one time. And that's a big difference between kids who are like sponges and absorb everything. So at this point, I would love to hear what you think are other important considerations when you're teaching adult learners. Don't worry about raising your hand, just go ahead and say something because we're a small group.
Was somebody else going to speak? For me, one of the things that that always comes up and that I like to keep in mind is the outside of the job place experiences that people have. People are struggling, especially non-English speakers. They have all sorts of challenges in their lives, in their country, at home, with COVID in their country. Lord help us, the things that I've heard. I've had students break into tears when we do emotions. Are you happy? Are you sad? I'm sad. Whoa, tears. So in my classes, I like to always let my students know that their well-being is top priority, above and beyond the lesson. If a student breaks into tears, I will stop the lesson and go over and ask them, can I give you a hug? What's wrong? And I'll flip over into Spanish. With my workplace students, they're all Spanish speakers, so that's convenient for me. And just ask, what happened? What's wrong? Can I help? But if you have students who feel valued and safe in the class, a lot more learning takes place. They trust you and are willing to take chances with their learning, going out on a limb and having bad pronunciation or making mistakes, and they're able to absorb and retain more.
My background is K-12 education. So this is these are my first real steps into adult ed, but what you say, Sue, is so true, and so true across the board. You know, it's Bloom's taxonomy, and when people, whether they're adults or kids, feel safe and their needs are met, then they can begin, then learning takes place. So, you know, you hit the nail right on the head, and how fortunate your students are that that you're coming from that place. I was going to add also, my limited experience with adults is that they should always feel respected and never feel as if the instructor or teacher is talking down to them, because they do bring such a wealth of knowledge base and experience. And because there's a language barrier doesn't mean there's an intelligence barrier by any means. And so, you know, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. I may have a unique way to help my students not to be too embarrassed if their pronunciation is bad, because I am not very good at Spanish, and I'll try to speak in Spanish and everybody will laugh, you know. So I say, you know, you have to try to learn, because I actually lived in Puerto Rico about 50 years ago and my learning stopped because I quit trying.
That quit trying, there's a key word, right, Beverly?
Yeah.
I was going to say too, I'm a second language, my second language is Spanish. And I think as soon as folks realize that you've gone through that process, no matter how much or how little of that second language you're able to use, they know you understand their journey, or they feel like you understand their journey.
Yeah.
Those are all fantastic points. Thank you so much for sharing. Would anyone else like to share before we move on? All right. Oh, 1 second. Did someone just enter? Let me check. Yes, Gladys entered. Great. Hi, Gladys. I'm so glad you could make it.
Hi, how are you?
Great. Would you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Gladys Franco, she, her, ella. I'm the Interim Assistant Vice President of Workforce Development at the Springfield Technical Community College.
Fantastic. So we were just talking about unique considerations for adult learners, and we'll go ahead and continue on that train of thought. All right, so the next thing to consider is adult learners in workplace ESOL. And as ESOL instructors for workplace education, we have significant advantages. According to surveys, 80% of adults say that their motivation is work-related.
Right.
Likewise, as Sue Crosby mentioned, the adult learners bring a lot of knowledge to the workplace education experience. For some of us, we're going into an industry or a business that we don't really know much about, especially the behind the scenes. But the learners are experts. They just don't have the English vocabulary, but they know all about the business. Also, concepts are learned quicker when they are concrete to the occupational goal. Our students are very motivated to learn English because they see how it relates to improving their job. Okay, let's talk about workplace ESOL contextualized curriculum. To begin with, all of you are masters at contextualizing curriculum, because whether you're designing curriculum or adapting your lessons mid-program, you have to contextualize. You've got students with different educational and professional goals. Sometimes you're teaching functional ESOL classes. Sometimes you're teaching academic. Sometimes you're teaching ESOL for parents. Sometimes you're doing individually tutoring where you have to keep on meeting the needs of your individual. Okay, so contextualizing for workplace ESOL is very similar to the experience that everyone already has when they're contextualizing. And what we're going to do now is compare a functional ESOL, ABE ESOL curriculum to workplace ESL curriculum. Because one of the comments I got is basically, do I have to start from scratch when I design workplace ESOL curriculum? And I want to show you that no, you don't. You can cut and paste. You're changing a lot of the context, the dialogues, but there's also a lot of similarities because these are adults and these are basic English concepts. Okay, let me go ahead and pull up the comparison. All right, I apologize for the size because it was hard to fit both on one screen, but I hope you can see this. Okay, this is the scope and sequence from side by side in adult ESOL basic instruction. And this is the scope and sequence that I created for a workplace English for restaurant workers. Let me just make
Is there any way to make that a little bigger?
Only if I show one at a time. Let me see what we can do. Maybe I'll just show one at a time if that makes it easier.
Yeah, that would.
Okay, so
Thank you.
let's take a look first. How about that?
That's good.
Okay, so this is the ABE curriculum. And I want to point out the grammar especially. As you all know, there's pretty much a formula for the order of teaching grammar. You know, very much based on Azar's grammar, that it's like, this is how you proceed in a way that makes sense. And that doesn't really change when you're teaching workplace ESOL. Likewise, there's some other similarities. They need to learn personal information, and they need to practice communicating their personal information. Over here, when they start learning to be and prepositions, here we have classroom objects and home and stuff, but instead, when you do workplace, you contextualize it. It becomes workplace objects, places around the factory, places around the workplace. Everyday activities, instead of talking about waking up and eating lunch, you start talking about the different activities they do at work. Some of the stuff is not really necessary. Colors, family members, that doesn't really relate to workplace ESOL. We can skip it. Okay? If you're doing retail workplace ESOL, clothing and color is useful. If you're in a factory, you skip it. Okay, so this is an example of our ABE curriculum. And let me just minimize this. And now I'll pull up an example of workplace ESOL curriculum. Okay, I would like you to look at this and tell me about some similarities and differences that you see from the ABE curriculum we just looked at.
The grammar is there.
Mm-hmm. I heard Mike mention the grammar.
Grammar, yeah, grammar is pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
Listening, speaking.
Looking,
Mm-hmm.
same, yeah.
Okay, I'll go ahead and move down to the next page.
You get into job descriptions in lesson 4,
Mm-hmm.
where I teach ESOL 1 and you're doing it more than halfway through the class.
Mhm.
And you're including tools, which they do very little with.
Well, it's
Yeah.
just like you say, it's just basically the same, but turning it around so that instead of introducing themselves to friends and other people, they're introducing themselves to coworkers and customers. And everything seems to be very similar, but just shifted a little bit to fit what they're doing in the workplace.
And you're really
Exactly.
targeting the vocabulary.
Yes, great point. Workplace ESOL curriculum is very content heavy. You don't actually do that much grammar. You want to focus on vocabulary and speaking skills. That's what the company and the supervisors are looking for. They don't really care about the grammar. They want the communication. So lots of content, lots of speaking. Let me know if I should keep scrolling or you want me to pause.
Yeah, and instead of forms, you're using their pay stub and their paycheck, which I think is great.
Yeah, that one they really like. They really enjoy it. They draw all over they bring it in and they mark all over it, and that activity has been very popular.
Instead of how to write a check, because most of my students, even though I'm level 1, if they're working, they already know how to write a check.
Mm-hmm.
I always hate to teach stuff they already know.
And frankly, more and less people are writing checks, you know, as
Right.
our society goes more and more digital.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think how to deal with customer service is good. They're not all going to work in customer service, but I don't care who you are. You have to call customer service once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times we're not going to be talking about family members. We're not going to be doing a lot of that basic vocabulary, like talking about the weather and seasons. But we're going to be filling in those weeks with more customer service, more vocabulary. Oh, and I will post this to the website. It's a draft,
Great.
so I'm going to be putting draft all over it. For me, these kind of things are always in progress, but I'll post it to the website so that you have an example. And so yeah,
Again,
last of all, oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, again, it's targeting vocabulary and just scaffolding that, you know, scaling it up, scaling it down, and kind of figuring out every which way that you can really focus and pounce on that vocabulary again and again so that it stays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you know, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can stick with the grammar that you're used to teaching at these levels. And some of the vocabulary is the same, but the biggest difference is vocabulary and context. All right. Now I'm going to go back to our PowerPoint presentation. Oh, I said from beginning. I didn't want that. Let me go back. Wait, how? I apologize. Escape. Not sure how that happened. Okay, there we are. All right, now let's talk about resources for curriculum design. We're going to be discussing textbooks. We're going to be discussing strategies for the company management team or your planning and evaluation team members. And then we're going to talk about the students, who are our greatest resource when it comes to workplace ESOL. First of all, I really like textbooks. I know that there's some organizations who don't use textbooks. They like to create everything. I personally really like to have textbooks, and one of the main reasons is for the benefit of the students. The students absolutely love having textbooks. A lot of them haven't been in school for decades, and it makes them feel really proud. It makes them feel like they're a legitimate student when they have a textbook. Also, when you teach remotely or even in class, most of the students aren't going to have access to a computer. So if you've got homework assigned, it's easier for them to work in a textbook than to have to use their smartphone. Also, it's a great reference material that they go back to. And then I find that it's a great guide to provide structure for my class. I use the textbook to give me an idea of, okay, what topics should I really include in workplace ESOL? And then I augment it with other material that's more specific to the company. I want you to keep in mind that workplace ESOL is content, not grammar. So don't go spending $40 on a fantastic grammar book. And also, even if you get a workplace ESOL textbook, it's not going to be specifically tailored to the industry or class you're teaching. You're still going to have to augment it. So you're very unlikely to ever find the perfect workplace ESOL textbook. I'm going to be posting a list of textbooks that I like for workplace ESOL on the website, and I would love to get some more books and ideas from all of you. So please send me by email any that you'd like to share that I can include on the website. And the last tip is, if there's a book you're interested in, I like to go to thrift books, and for about $5, I can buy an edition that came out 5 years ago, you know, instead of getting the brand new edition. So I can collect and check out different textbooks pretty inexpensively. Any questions at this point?
About the owning, sorry.
Yes,
Go ahead,
Franklin?
Just quickly to say that I agree with you. The students love the textbooks. One of the things that attract the employers the most when we are talking about workplace ESOL is the customization of the class, that we can generally say, this is going to be about your business, about what these people are doing here every day. So we need to keep a balance and communicate all this to the employer too, that yes, we are using a textbook as a, if you want, as a supplementary or as a base, but there is still the customization of the curriculum, and the content is still happening.
So my question about the owning of the books, does it matter if it's a virtual book, textbook?
Oh, that's a great point. So the Oxford Picture Dictionary is available even cheaper, $21 as a digital, and it's better because they can hear the pronunciation of all the words, which has always been kind of a shortcoming of that book. My students love it. So yes, a digital textbook is also fantastic. The students really are excited to have digital textbooks. Anything else you'd like to add or ask about when it comes to textbooks? All right.
So have you have an instance where an employer wants to keep the ownership of those books, or is always clear that they belong to the students?
No, I've never had that instance, especially because we always get write-in textbooks. But that's a great question, and nope, never come up, thank goodness. All right, the next resource, oops, went too far. Why is it going backwards? All right, there we go. The next resource is the managers, or the planning and evaluation team members. Now, DESE grants require PETs, but Commonwealth Corporation Workforce Training Fund grants don't require a PET. But the Massachusetts Workplace Education Guide, from which I'll put up this resource for you guys as well, the Massachusetts Workplace Literacy Consortium highly recommends that you have a PET, and that this PET should include representatives from all the different stakeholders, including yourselves. And this PET can help you because they can help you determine what workplace themes should be addressed. They can also provide suggestions for class content, materials. You're going to have supervisors, HR people in the PET, and they can give you direct, authentic materials. So, for those of you who are directors, I highly recommend that you convince the company to put together a PET. All right, so now we're going to practice managers as a resource. We're going to do this for 15 minutes, just in groups of 2 because there aren't that many of us. And here are the instructions. Would anyone like to read the instructions since I'm talking so much? Beverly? Oh, I'm sorry. Would you like to read the instructions to us?
Sure. Objective. Using manager input as a resource, identify themes and materials content to include in the curriculum. Number 1, examine the following summary of 4 manager interviews at a grocery store chain. 2, identify workplace themes, modules, or units that should be included. 3, what authentic materials from the company would be useful for designing curriculum to teach the themes you identified? You want me to read? Assign one group member to type your answers and be willing to share their screen when we discuss as a whole group.
Thank you. Sometimes, you know, when you're talking so much, it's nice to take a break and have a student read. Okay, so I've asked you to only identify 3 themes. There's a lot more than 3, but I'm hoping that we can all bring something different to the table and not kind of repeat each other. So I say the word theme, but this could also be considered a module or a unit in your curriculum. And then think about what kind of materials or information you can request from the company to add to this unit. Does anyone have any? I'm going to show you the manager interviews in a minute, but do you have any questions at this moment? Okay. So I sent you this series of manager interviews to pre-print. Let me just grab it right now. Okay, this was sent to you in an email because I won't be able to share it on my screen when you guys are in breakout sessions. But If you check your email, you'll see that it's attached there. This is a summary of 4 interviews I conducted for a grocery store during the workplace needs analysis. Okay, so when you look at this document, I would like you to try to identify 3 themes that the supervisors and managers are interested in having in the curriculum. All right, and if you, like I said, if you don't have this document, it's in the email I sent you. All right, so do you have any questions right now about this breakout session practice? Okay, I'm going to put you in.
Sarah,
group.
one more
Yes?
time. The notes that are going to be taken, they should be placed. Where should we put?
One of you should type them up. Like you can share screens in the breakout session. So one of you should type up the notes and be willing to share them with the class after when we all come back together. So choose one person in your group who's going to be the typer. Okay?
Okay.
Any other questions about these instructions?
To type them where? I'm sorry, I
On
don't
your
understand.
computer. So when you're in a
Sorry.
breakout session, you can share your screen with your partner. So one of you is going to open up a Word document and type your answers onto that Word document. And then when we all come back together, that person will share their screen and share that Word document with the group. Does that clarify what I meant?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Any other questions before we go into our groups?
Maybe.
Okay, so let me just pop you into a couple of groups. And I'll give you about 10 minutes to do this. So the breakout room will close in about 30 seconds, and then the rest of them will join us.
Okay.
So whoever was typing the answers is going to share with the group.
Yep.
That's you, Gladys. Thank you.
You'll be fine. I mean, someone else can talk. She just has to share.
All right.
She actually put them in the chat, which I thought was a really great idea.
Well, unfortunately, the chat for your breakout room won't show up for everyone. It stays in just that breakout room. That was something we discovered in one of our previous workshops.
Oh,
Yeah, that's why I'm having you guys type them to share from our learning experience. Okay, welcome back, everybody. So we're going to start with Gladys's group. She's going to share her screen, and either herself or someone else in her group can talk about the themes and materials that she found. Okay,
Well,
go ahead,
Okay,
Gladys.
wait a minute. I need to close mine.
Oh, no, you don't have to share. You don't have to close anything.
Okay, I don't have to close this screen
Nope.
share? Okay.
Wait. Oh, I don't think you'll be sharing
Because that's in the breakout room.
Yeah, but it's over. When you came back here, it stopped sharing.
All right.
I've got our resources, Gladys.
Yeah, you're in good shape, Beverly. You're in good shape. You're not sharing anymore.
All right, so
Okay.
I'm not going to share my screen, but I will share out what we discussed. For themes, we identified grocery store operational vocabulary, such as quantities and cost, interpersonal relations, including customer service skills, and workplace structure, roles, and teamwork. And for authentic resources, we identified operational and safety manuals, policies and procedures, and store map, circulars or ads, forms that they need to complete, and contact information for the hierarchical structure.
Fantastic. And Gladys, please send me what you typed, and I will post this on the website resources under today's workshop session so that everyone can refer to this. Thank you so much. And who's next?
Beverly.
Beverly, but I'm having trouble opening this. I saved it, but I don't know where it went. Recent, probably.
Yes, that was my recommendation. If you go to recent documents, you will see it there.
I don't see it there.
Or we can quickly reconstruct what we talk about. Do you remember the list of topics?
We talked about the difference between the metrics used in US and many other countries. What else did we talk about?
Products.
Products,
Products.
right?
Customer skills.
Right. And what was the last one we did?
Was directions, right?
Directions,
how to
right.
use directions.
Because if your student goes and asks somebody, where do I find this? And they say, give them left, right, and they don't know left and right, they're sunk. Because I don't think they'll ask again, the students. Okay.
In terms of real life materials, I mean, some were already mentioned, like, I think you call it, Gladys, you call it a store map. We talk about a store layout so people can orientate themselves and direct. What other real life materials?
We said brochures, and maybe compare a brochure, a US brochure with one from another country.
Store websites.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yep.
YouTube conversations.
Oh yeah, that was good. YouTube conversations.
And also we talk about training manuals from the company on what to say when interacting with the customers, and what to do depending on the customer's reactions. And Beverly, you were saying that McDonald's has a very detailed manual that your students.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a manual or it's online, but their training includes what to say. Like that's why when you go to the window, they ask the same question every place, because they're trained to say that.
I worked at McDonald's in college, and they had 5 steps how to serve a customer, to include how many times to fold the bag and what to say as you slid it across the counter to the customer. So I can imagine that they're pretty detailed. Training versus education, right?
Right. That's why I use trained. I was going to say, but if they have a problem and it doesn't fit that pattern, that's when they need the education.
Yeah, very good point.
And,
okay.
and Gladys is asking Sue to say a little bit more about the YouTube conversations that you use for the restaurants. Can you say more?
I found various conversations for different ones of my students, different groups of students, just by typing in restaurant interactions or whatever in the search bar, and I come up, or restaurant interactions for English learners, or, you know, various code words. And you can get conversations that are slow and clear between a customer and an employee, between a customer at a restaurant and the server or whatever. There are a lot of those conversations on YouTube just by typing in the code words. Then you sift through them, say, oh, that doesn't quite work, but okay, that's a good one. And that's been very helpful. My students have loved that.
Thank you.
I love this discussion. I would love to keep going, and luckily next week when we focus on lessons, we're going to be able to share so many more resources. For now, let's take a 10-minute break, and when you come back, we're going to be focusing some more on curriculum design and the resources our students bring to this. Okay, so please don't log off, just mute and turn off your video and be back at 10:50. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so the third resource we want to talk about is our students, the employee learners, your students. And I have a couple quotes here I would love to share. We'll go back to what we talked about adult learners. They frequently bring significant knowledge to the workforce experience. And then another quote from the Massachusetts Workplace Literacy Consortium is, an instructor said, "These students know and perform their task well." So program participants are an important resource. When you talk to your supervisors and managers, you're going to get a piece of the picture, but the students are going to provide resources ongoing throughout the course of the program. So we can get information, we can solicit curriculum ideas and themes before classes commence in your workplace needs assessment. And your director, your curriculum designer, they should have done some kind of workplace needs assessment. But even if they did, or if they didn't, as an instructor, you'll find it useful to go out and do some of your own interviews and go visit the company and chat with some of your upcoming students. So doing interviews and surveys will show that most workers have specific concerns in common. And another strategy is to do some job shadowing. Observe the employees on the job. And one of the things I like to do when I job shadow is I take lots of digital photos as well as writing down notes. And then I can use those photos as material when we're talking about different tools or different job activities. So in addition to reminding me how to create my curriculum, all the photos I take can then be used as authentic material. And another thing is that when you're doing job shadowing, a lot of times the managers and students want to chat with you. And so you get additional resources that way. The students are also a resource while you're adapting and developing your curriculum during the program. And I love this quote from the Massachusetts Workplace Literacy Consortium. Listen inside and outside of the classroom, before, during, and after class for students' work concerns and build your curriculum around them. And some of the strategies that the MWLC recommends are, first of all, something that you mentioned here, and who mentioned it? I think it was Sue. Confidentiality. Assure the students that what's in the classroom stays in the classroom. It's a safe space, like you mentioned. Another strategy is journal writing. Some students are too nervous to talk, but they'll open up in a journal. And the MWLC mentioned that reading work-related short stories can help students open up to discussion about their related experiences. So now I would love to hear from all of you. What are some strategies that you think would help to elicit themes and ideas for the curriculum from your workplace education students?
Could you repeat the question?
What are some strategies that you use or you think would be useful for getting ideas for your curriculum while you're in the program, during classes?
Well, we haven't done it yet, but one thing that comes to mind is ask them what they do during the day. What are they doing? What are they doing? What are they doing? Who are they talking to? You know, are they just working about themselves? And do they have some things they have to do? Who do they interact with? So just get a sense of the flow of their day.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be helpful because then you'll have a picture. Because you're not going to be with them 8 hours. So if you get a capsule, little blurb of what they're doing, that would be extremely helpful. Because then it'll give you an idea of how to structure something. Because you'll know who they interact with, how they interact with them, or if they're interacting with anybody. There are many jobs, especially manufacturing jobs, where they're just make this thing all day, whatever it is. So that would be very helpful. I would think that'd be extremely helpful to get a picture. And it would be interesting to get a picture of the day from different viewpoints. So what does the supervisor see? What does the employee see? What does whoever else is interacting with that person, even tangentially or often. So yeah, I think that a picture would be very important. A day in the life of employee X in factory A or whatever, or wherever.
Yeah, I really like how you talk about getting the same situation from different angles. I like that idea.
Yeah.
And the idea of drawing that picture, because sometimes if the students their English is not too advanced, they had a hard time describing. That's right. That's why they are there in the first place, because they want to be able to say in English what they do, and they can't yet. But if they can draw in what they do and where they go, that will be a very interesting lesson to be part of.
Would be, yeah.
Yep. I hang around in the restaurant after I'm done. I do my attendance. There's a back room and it's not used. I do my attendance and put some notes for the next class. And while I'm there, different managers wander in and out. And I talk to the managers. I asked one of them, could you please write for me 4 sample conversations, short, just 4 lines each or something, that might happen in the workplace with my students? And he was thrilled. Yes, I would love to do that. So he wrote 4 different conversations that may take place in the workplace, gave that to me. I presented it to the students, and the conversation was rich coming off of that, because they were like, oh, this and that. And they had other things to say about what happened in these situations. And these are beginner students. They have hardly any English, but they were able to contribute in English a lot to these conversations. And there were realizations of different words. They were like, oh, oto, hot tot, okay, which was great. It was just a fabulous thing. So we're working on that as an end of semester presentation, some of these skits that he wrote up for us.
Will do. All right. I gotta run, folks. I run to another meeting, but I'll look forward to. I'll talk to you. I'll see you next week.
Okay, great.
Bye now.
Bye, Mike.
Bye.
Bye, Mike. Okay, these are fantastic ideas. And the next thing we're going to do is a relatively long breakout section activity. I'll give you about 20 minutes to do this activity. Let me share my screen again. All right, breakout session. Now it's your turn to design a workplace contextualized unit. And if you're working with Rail Trail, Ox Industries, you are welcome to use a different industry. Or if you don't have anything you're working on right now, feel free to use the grocery store information that we looked at. And you're going to be in groups of 2. The objective is to develop a scope and sequence of the course curriculum for just a 3 to 4 week unit. You're just going to address one theme. It's about 12 to 16 hours of instruction, assuming that you have 2 hours twice a week. First of all, we're going to examine the example of a scope and sequence grid for one unit of a restaurant workplace ESOL curriculum. That's our model. Then choose a theme common to workplace ESOL from something you're working on or from the grocery store. And then fill out the scope and sequence grid. The one I've provided is a guide. If your organization has a different way of doing scope and sequence or curriculum design, please feel free to use what you're comfortable and familiar with. I'm just providing a guide that you're welcome to use if you like. So, first of all, let's take a look at the example and the grid. Oh, and as usual, please have one person who's going to be typing on the grid that I sent you in the email and who will be willing to share their screen with your curriculum. Okay, let's see. Let me pull up this.
Sarah, so you're saying that once we identify the theme for the specific industry that we're choosing to develop for, we're going to develop the scope and sequence for one unit?
Yep. Here, I'll show you the example. And let's see. Okay, this is the document that I sent in your email. This is a 4-week scope and sequence for just customer service unit for restaurant workers. So it has 1 week of asking for assistance, how to ask for help on the job and respond to customer requests. 2 weeks of talking about ingredients and recipes, so they can describe the different ingredients to the customers or read order tickets. And 1 week of talking about customers with issues with their food. So it's just one theme, and you can use the ones you identified in the grocery store or any other industry you're interested in. You can choose any theme, health and safety, customer service. You can use the theme about metrics or the theme about asking where things are, the layout. It doesn't have to be customer service. And then the next page is where you get to fill in your information. So, do you have any questions right now about this assignment? I know it's kind of complicated, but I think it's going to be really great practice. So I hope you enjoy it. Any other questions at this time?
Do we have enough time to present today what we are going to do, or that will be for next week?
We probably won't have enough time to present today. And if you don't finish today, we can always finish up next week as well. So
Okay.
just see what you can do and don't worry about rushing.